In this video, I just wanted to talk about a crankbait that I truly believe could end up taking the place of some of my favorite balsa baits like a DT6 by Rapala. And I have a really interesting story about this particular bait. I just thought I would share it with you guys. But real quick before we do, I'm gonna be at the Columbus Fishing Expo here in Columbus, Ohio, February 9th through the 11th. I'm actually going to have a booth there with my fishing apparel. So if you guys wanna come up, you wanna check out the apparel, if you just wanna come up and talk to me, I would love to get to meet you guys. I got to do this last year and it was a ball, and there's still some guys that I talked to this day that I met there at that show. So guys, come on up to Columbus, Ohio. I would love to meet you. All right, let's talk about this. Now, this particular crankbait here is actually the Berkley Dime. There's a number of different depths in this particular crankbait. There's a Dime 4, a Dime 6, a Dime 10, I think an even deeper one. But this particular bait was actually made to really be kind of that balsa bait replacement. And when this isn't the first time that this has been attempted to be done. Everyone, if you are a hardcore crankbait fisherman, you know how good balsa baits are. And Rapala over the last several years has always produced probably some of the most consistent, I should say, the most consistent balsa baits. Now, balsa also has a lot of flaws. You know, one of the things that I hate about a DT6 is you don't want to slap that thing on the water in cold water because you will lose that bill will pull right out of that bait. I've had my BBs actually come out of the bait, just a hole in the bottom. But the thing about it is they are fish catching machines. Now, I kind of had an interesting story happen with this particular Dime or something that I learned about this Dime crankbait here just recently. So if you guys have been kind of following along the channel, you know that a couple of weeks ago, I actually went down to Houston, Texas. I was fortunate enough to get invited to a Berkley event where they were releasing some of their new forward-facing sonar baits. But at this particular event, I got to talk to like the head hard bait and soft bait designers. And I was really, really pumped about this because I've never just been in the position to be able to ask a lot of questions that I've always had. And I do want you guys to know, like, I'm not sponsored by Berkley, so I don't have these guys at my disposal. I'm not sponsored by any lure company. And I've turned down several different companies in the past, even like some really good money deals, just because I want to have that flexibility on the YouTube channel to be able to tell you this is what I think is really good as far as a bait goes here, and this is what I think is really bad. And I've always wanted to have that flexibility. But anyways, I got to talk to the hard bait designer a lot, and one of the biggest questions that I actually asked him, and I actually wrote all these questions down in this little journal that I kept with me while I was there, is I really wanted to know, like, what actually separates a good crankbait from a bad crankbait. And he had a number of reasons, you know, how a bait deflects, how it rolls over cover, how it hunts in the water. There's a ton of different things. But something that I was very intrigued by was the whole science behind the Berkley Dime. And I don't know if this is even public information, it might be, but they went over 100 different prototypes of this one bait. Over 100. I think the number was like 130 or 40. I can't remember exactly. I just know it was over 100. And each time they were doing tests with this bait, they were trying to get this bait to have a very similar action to balsa. That is what they were trying to achieve with this particular bait. And not only that, but they also wanted this bait to outperform those balsa baits. And if you guys have been around the channel, you know that I love science stuff. When it comes to fishing, like, because we all have our different opinions about what baits are good, what baits are bad. And I'm not absolutely saying that this bait is better than a balsa bait. But what I was very intrigued by was that they actually ran this particular bait side by side in one of their testing facilities that had bass in the waters. And something that's interesting about the bass that they put in these is they only let these bass like I forget what it is, but they only let these bass see so many baits, and then they basically have to replace the fish. They want the true innate responses from a largemouth in these tanks when they do all these different tests. In this particular bait, when they finally got it to where they wanted it, outperformed some of your favorite balsa baits. I'm not going to say which ones they were every single time. Every single time they outperformed those balsa baits. And then what they do, because here's what my other question was, okay, that's great because that's in a tank, but what about in the wild? Like, what about actually going out there and going fishing? And something that Berkley does with all of their baits is once they get a bait to where they kind of want it, they actually take it out on the body of water. This has to be one of the best parts of their job, is they get to go out there and go fishing, and they catalog all their different catches, and they truly do a lot of testing with one guy throwing one bait, one guy throwing a different bait. They switch up, they do it for a certain amount of time. This crazy testing actually goes into making a lot of these baits I had no idea about. And it was really, really intriguing to me. Even baits like the Berkley Slobber Knocker, which is kind of like a bladed jig. That particular bait had like 70 different prototypes. Like, it's just crazy to me. And guys, like, I'm not trying to push Berkley in your face right now. I'm just letting you know something that I learned about them. If you want to buy this bait, you can. If you don't want to, that's fine too. But anyways, they tested this bait out in the facility. They brought it, and it outdid every other bait, every other balsa bait. Then they took it to the wild, and the exact same thing happens. As a matter of fact, they said that 98% of the time they have one result in the tests at their facility, it will happen also in the wild. So that, to me, is just amazing. And this particular bait is going to be one that I have thrown this bait, and the one thing that I do like about this bait is how well it casts. This thing casts extremely well. To me, the Berkley Fritz side, which has been one of my favorite little flat side crankbaits over the last couple of years, like, the thing that I love about it is how well you can cast it, and it's very similar to this bait here. It doesn't get caught in the wind real easily, and this is a smaller one. I will leave a link for this bait down below in the description. I will let you know at Omnia that all Berkley products are 25% off right now, so if you want to pick some up, feel free to. But I do want you guys to know I am not saying that this bait is always going to outproduce a balsa bait like a DT6. I don't know for a fact, and I don't know if you could ever actually prove that. But I do find the testing of this bait remarkable, and how they went about it and how they came out with just kind of a final design. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to watch my most recent video, you can click this link right here, and I will see you guys tomorrow.